Teresa, thank you for joining me today. Welcome to my channel if you're new. Today I'm going to be showing you that once again gel printing is not just about acrylic paint. There are lots of other media you can use, and today specifically I'm going to be looking at water soluble crayons. We're going to create some really nice sort of abstract soft watercolour effect backgrounds. Here's just a few that I've got left over, and I'm also going to be showing you how with the addition of a few stamps you can create some really pretty finished projects at the end as well. So I'm going to move these out of the way, get all set up, and I shall run through the products that we're going to be using today. Before we start, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the products that I'm using today. The gel plate that I've got out today is my Gelly Arts 5" by 7" gel plate. Nice size to use. I use this a lot when I'm thinking about maybe doing cards or tags, because it's a good size to work on. Not too big, you don't need a huge amount of product, so quite quick and easy to work on that size plate. I have a selection of stencils here today, 4 different designs. They're all from joggles.com. Joggles.com online store in the US have a huge range of their own brand stencils, as well as lots of the leading other companies as well, but they're really nice stencils to use. I like the fact they come in different sizes, and today the ones I've got are either these ones here, which are sort of like 6 by 8", so perfect for the 5 by 7 plate, or these larger ones here, which I believe are about 8 by 12". Again, really work well if you want to cover the entire plate with the design. I've got some water, both just a glass of water and some water in a little spray bottle. I have some baby oil. This is just cheap. This is supermarket own brand baby oil, you know, local supermarket, local chemists, something like that. And I use that for cleaning the plate, because the water soluble crayons can leave a bit of staining, and baby oil is the best way to get that back out of the plate again, I've found. But moving on to the main thing, today I'm having a look at water soluble crayons. There are lots of different brands on the market. I don't own all of them, so I'm going to show you a couple of techniques with the ones that I've got. If you happen to own a different brand, have a go with the brand that you've got first before you rush out and think that you need to buy something else, because chances are you're going to get the same sort of results or very similar results to what I'm going to get today. But today I've got the Neocolour II water soluble crayons. And these, you know, they look like a wax crayon, but they say they're water soluble, nice vibrant colours. I like using those. I've also got some Dina Wakely Scribble Sticks. This is set 1 and 2. Again, both quite bright colours. These are slightly deeper colours than these ones, but very similar product to the Neocolours, and so I'm going to have a go with those. And thirdly, I have some gelatos here. Also got a couple of spare Neocolours that I've bought open stock there. But these are your gelatos. Again, a water soluble sort of crayon in a stick. Most of the ones I've got here are the pearlescent or metallic ones. I do have a couple of plain colours here, a lime green and a turquoise. But, you know, if you've got Distress crayons or Marabou art crayons or other brands, you know, have a go with those first, see what results you get. If you're not happy with the results you get with those and want to come out and try something different, then go ahead and buy some of these. But as I always say, try with what you've got before you rush out and buy something else. A lot of these products will all work in exactly the same way. The cardstock that I'm going to be printing onto today is just some watercolour cardstock, just simply because this is a wet media and I want something that's going to absorb some of that moisture into it. Some of the smooth card that I use for printing on with acrylic paints, it's not quite so absorbent, and I don't want it just to all run all over the surface. So I'm using a watercolour cardstock. Just cut this down out of a pad that I've got, so you know, any brand watercolour card would do fine. I've also got some scraps of paper off to the side. I do have a brayer and some white acrylic paint. This is a translucent white, because I will be doing like a clean off print to get off some of the dried colour, just using some acrylic paint as well. But that's it, basically. That's all I'm going to be using today. So we'll get on and show you how to create these really sort of pretty watercoloured backgrounds. So I'm going to begin by using the Neocolors. So I'll just move my other things out of the way. And I'm going to dip the Neocolors into my jar of water to sort of get the colour flowing. And we'll go from there, applying some colour directly onto the plate.
Saw you down the motorway. There was something about you that day. I can still hear the shimmering sound. The hill is near, let's get right up.
Once you've got your plate covered with colour, take a quick look at it. Depending on how long you've spent doing this and depending on the ambient temperature of your room, I've noticed that the first colour that I was applying is beginning to dry a little bit. So that's why I've got the spray bottle, just so I can lightly spritz over the surface with a little bit of water, just to make sure that all the paint that's on there is actually liquid. So then I'm going to choose a stencil, and I think I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to lay that over the top of my plate. I'm going to take a piece of my watercolour cardstock and press it down to transfer some of that colour and create our first print. And as you can see, you get this really soft watercolour effect. You see hints of the stencil design in there, but it's really, really nice. I love this, using water-soluble inks or crayons or paints on the plate gives a totally different finish to that you would get with acrylic paint. So next we can lift off the stencil. And I can take another piece of paper, which I'm going to have to do just slightly out of shot because my plate's fixed in place. But I'm going to pop my stencil, the way that I've lifted it off, I'm going to drop it straight down onto my piece of paper. And then take another piece and pop that on top, and we'll remove the colour from both sides of that stencil to create two prints. Now this will have a lot less colour on it than our first one, because we're obviously only removing what was left stuck onto the stencil on both sides. But it does create a really nice subtle background for cards and tags and things like that. So that's the piece that we've got from the top. Again, you can see this hint of the design of the stencil there. And I'll lift the stencil up, just move that out of the way for now. And that's the one that we got from the bottom. So just bringing in the first one. As you can see, there is a difference. You've got a more defined stencil design there, but two very nice subtle backgrounds that once cut down and maybe add some stamping or decoupage or something on the top is going to look really pretty. The fourth print that we will get out of this session is by letting the remainder of the colour on here dry onto the plate. Now again, depending on the temperature of wherever you are, this could take anything from sort of 5 minutes to 20 minutes or so. But don't be tempted to rush it and smudge it too much. Just give it a chance to dry. So as soon as that's dry, I shall be back and show you how to pull the final print from this set. Now that my plate is dry, I'm just going to apply a very thin coat of this paint You really don't ever need a lot of paint for this type of clean-up print. Just as long as you've got a thin, even coating, that should be more than enough. So just using the brayer to spread that evenly. Just cleaning the paint off on a piece of paper. Take another piece of our cardstock and create our final print from this set. And this creates a really soft, faded out version really of our very first print. Very nice, quite a romantic feel to it, I think. But again, you can see the detail from the stencil in there, but very soft and subtle colours. So as you can see, there is some staining left on this plate. And that is just the nature of the products that we're using. Now, I always find the best thing to get rid of staining, especially, you know, with things like this, with pastels, which also stain quite heavily, is to just put some of the baby oil on and basically work it all over just with a bit of paper towel. And you can see there the colour that it's lifting off. I mean, residual staining of the plate, as you can see, my plate is no longer completely clear. It doesn't really transfer. But while there is still, like this, some sort of loose colour, you don't really want that to be interfering with subsequent prints. So I would just go over it a couple of times. As you see, it's still lifting some colour out of there. And it will also really condition your plate well. I always use some baby oil at the end of each printing session before I pack my plate away. Helps keep it in really good condition. So there, that's coming away pretty much clear now, so happy with that. So next I'm going to use some of the gelatos for our next set of prints. And again, you could dip these into some water. I mean, they do twist up and you could dip them into some water. But I would prefer for something like this, I will spritz a little bit of water onto the surface of the plate and then swirl the colour onto that. Just my personal preference with gelatos, I don't particularly want to dip those in the water. Don't want them to go too soft because of having to sort of twist them back down into the tube.
Up to the very top, we couldn't tell the sky from the ground. I know my life will never be the same after that day. You wrap me around your fingers and you stay. I don't ever wanna be alone again. In spite of all, you're my best friend.
So once again, just check that the plate is wet all over. If you think you need a light spritz of water, again, just feel free to do that. And this time I'm going to use this stencil, well used one. This is completely covered in paint, but still works absolutely fine. I'm going to take this first print in the same way as we did before. And there we've got the effect of those, and I'm hoping that we'll get a little bit of shimmer showing once that dries, as these are the sort of pearly coloured gelatos. But again, a very nice soft watercolour effect. With this set of prints, before I remove the stencil, I'm going to try applying some more colour through here. Obviously we've still got a little bit of colour that's beaded up on the plate. So I'm just going to take my scrap of paper here, this was the one I was cleaning my brayer with, and just lift off some more of that, just so that this plate showing here is a little bit cleaner. And I'm going to choose a different colour, something different to what I used originally. So I think I'm going to go for a green, because I didn't use a green. And just lightly misting, just to wet the surface of the plate again. Going to apply some colour through the stencil. And then, like before, I'm going to lift that off. Pop that down onto a piece of watercolour card. Take another piece of watercolour card and clean off the stencil. And that's going to give us a different type of impression, because this time we've got a lot of paint actually on the stencil itself. And there's our print from the bottom with all our original colours, plus a little bit of that green that I've added in as well. Again, really nice, soft, subtle background. And finally, we'll come to do our plate. Now that's dry, just going to apply a thin coat of paint again. And take our final print. This one, very subtle, not a lot coming off there. I think the colours of these gelatos are a little bit softer, but that's fine. This one will go into my drawer. I shall print on top of it again. I might actually do a subsequent print on this from my next set, just to add a little bit more detail to it. You can't win them all. So I'm going to clean my plate off again with the baby oil, and I shall come back and do a final set using some of the Dina Scribble Sticks. So final set, I'm going to use these Dina Scribble Sticks, as I said, and I'm going to use those in exactly the same way that I did the Neocolours, by dipping them into the water. Slightly misting with water again to make sure that surface is all wet. And I think this time we'll put this floral design down. And there we have another beautiful soft watercolour effect. Going to lift our stencil off the plate and onto another piece of watercolour card. Sandwich it with another. And there's one side of our stencil. And the other side. And I'm thinking, while there's still quite a lot of wet colour on there, I'm going to take this less than successful print from last time and see what we can add to it off the plate. And that actually, I really like that effect. Very, very nice effect there. So that one didn't go to waste. But looking at what's left on here, this is really the residual staining now. So I'm not going to bother doing a print with paint here. I'm just going to clean this plate off and I'll call this session done. I'll clear this out of the way and show you the prints that I've made. So here's just a quick run through of the prints that we got from this session today. And what I shall do is then I shall go away, make a couple of samples, finished projects using them and show them to you right at the end. But I really love the different effects that we got within each set of prints. And I know some people might be looking at things like this and going, oh, there's not a lot there. But when you've cut it down and create something with it, it sort of pulls together a lot better. But that was the first set that we did. This was the second set with the pearlescent gelatos, which I hope you can see where it's sort of kind of pooled up a little bit thicker. There is some shimmer there, so I'm really happy that we did capture some of the shimmer from those colours. Again, much more subtle with the second and third prints, and that final print that we did with the paint didn't really show a lot, but we managed to reuse that in this set here. Love this sort of floral design there, very, very nice. And again, the second and third prints, and that was that one that we reprinted over, and I love that, so it's got a vintage tone to it. It's very, very happy. I also did do another set using Neocolours, just with the other stencil that I'd got out. Just used some brighter colours. Just did one of the prints there with a stencil, and then that was the one I created with the paint at the end. So I hope you can see there's quite a variety in the different results that you get depending on which print you want to use. But as I say, I'll go away and make maybe 3 or 4 different cards, and I shall show you what they look like in a moment. So here are some finished cards that I've created. I've just done some stamping and then just created some simple cards. As always, never go to too much effort because I do appreciate that not everybody has lots of card making products. This one here, this was one of the ones that we did with an acrylic paint, cleaning the plate off. I've stamped this tree design. I've got all the stamps I've used here just so I can show you. This was by Lavinia Stamps and it's called Celestial Tree. Stamped that, and this is just a little sentiment sticker. It's on a clear background. Just stamped that on there, matted it onto black card and onto my card front. This one here was one of the ones where we cleaned off the stencil and just created this quite subtle swirly background. Stamped this floral design. This is by Altenew, and that is called, where is the title of that one? Surely it must have, oh, Needlework Motif. There we go. That's called Needlework Motif. So stamped that design and sentiment from the same set on there. This one here was the one that we did with the gelatos. So we've got this subtle shimmer from the metallic and pearlescent gelatos. Stamped a wreath and sentiment from this Altenew Weekend Doodles set. And then I've just added some colour to the leaves with some brush markers. just to add a little bit extra depth to that design there. Next, I moved on to, oh yeah, this was the one where I used the colour that was left on the plate and stamped over my print that hadn't worked very well. So this was the one where we reused the original print that was not very good and picked up some more colour. And I've stamped, these are some Stampers Anonymous stamps. This was the entomology set. So I've just stamped the moth design 3 times, and then just around the edge I've layered some labels and stamped the words from this set, which is the Field Notes set. Again, another Stampers Anonymous set, but just made a nice slimline card there. Another slimline card here. This was one where we cleaned off the stencil, and this is using a set from Paper Artsy. It's from the Lynn Perella collection. LPC 043 is the name of the set there. Just stamped that and added a sticker at the bottom. That's one of the Tim Holtz clippings stickers there at the bottom. And finally this one here, where this was one of the first prints that we did, using the Scribble Sticks, if I believe. Nope, Neocolors, I think. Neocolors this one was. And I've used stamps here from this visible image set, Born to Perform. Stamped the little stars using coloured inks in the background just to pick out the colours that we've already got from that print, and then stamped the sentiment and the dancer in black. Still got a big pile here. Was going to carry on, but just genuinely I've run out of time, but I still have prints there that I can create cards with. But once again, just a few simple ideas on what you can do with the different prints that you've created, just with a few simple stamps and sentiments. So as always, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it's given you some ideas of using other media on your gel plate again, not just paint. But as always, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I shall see you again soon. Bye.
I know it's tough. Don't let